We'll call to order the special called meeting of the Planning Commission, February 19th at about 6:04. First item on the agenda is the prayer and pledge. Lord, thank you so much for each and every one of us and letting us come together tonight to hear the business of the city. We are just very blessed to be in a prosperous time in our city right now and just be with each of us and help us in our decisions to make the best decisions for our citizens and our city. And be with Tony Sutton as he is in the hospital tonight fighting an infection. He can't be here, but we want you to be with him and the doctors who care for him and help him to have a speedy recovery. In Christ's name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If each one of us will leave our mics off so there's not any feedback unless you speak. If you're speaking, please turn it on so everyone can hear. As I mentioned in the prayer, Commissioner Sutton won't be here tonight. He's in the hospital, so please think about him, and we send our prayers out to him to get better. Okay, the first thing is we need to strike number 3. That's number 3 that's on the agenda. And that would be the moving the regular scheduled Planning Commission meeting from the second Tuesday in March to the third Tuesday in March due to Williamson County School spring break. There was a miscommunication about when spring break was. It is the third week, so we're good to have it the second week. And on item number 1, we need to make sure that it says that we're going to have discussion and or take action on the site plan revisions for Taco Bell. Number 2 will be discuss and or take action on the McRedmond Family Partnership property on Highway 96. So we need a...
I move to accept as presented.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Okay, item number 1 is to discuss and or take action on the site plan revisions for Taco Bell. Mr. Beata is going to read the engineer's comments.
Engineers' comments for the site plan revisions for Taco Bell. Number 1, from an engineering perspective, the functionality of the proposed surface detention pond is not significantly different than the previously approved underground detention system. Number 2, if the PC grants a variance to allow the surface detention pond, it is recommended that the outlet pipe location be moved approximately 20 feet to the northwest and connect to the back of the new curb inlet basin that is part of the current Fairview Boulevard improvements relating to the Walmart site. This connection will require TDOT approval as a part of the driveway access permit. Prior to start of construction, a copy of the TDOT permit must be submitted to the city. And that's all.
Do we have someone here representing Taco Bell? Thank you. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I would like to, go ahead.
Yes, please.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for having this special meeting to hear our matter tonight. And I'm Harold Thompson, architect with Harold Thompson Architects, the architect of record for this project. And you have in front of you documents submitted by Jim Lukens, our civil engineer, who had discussed the matter with the engineer hired by the city. And of course, you heard this engineer's recommendation that was just read to you. We are asking a variance to use an above-ground pond in lieu of underground. There are several reasons for this. Number one, the natural lay of the land slopes from the rear of the property toward the front or toward the street. So it's kind of difficult for us to comply with the above-ground pond on the rear when that elevation is higher than the front. Secondly, what we are proposing, if you notice the elevations of the pond at the top of the berm on the street side, you will see that it's approximately 7 feet higher than the street. So from an aesthetic standpoint, a visual standpoint, a person walking on the street or a person in a vehicle would not be able to see the pond because of its elevation above the street. We also are showing landscaping that would, in another way, help shield the pond. So, and we are ready and are prepared to add additional landscaping in order to help make it more aesthetically pleasing. So in asking for the variance, we feel that technically we have solved the problem of the stormwater management, and that we will move the outlet as recommended by your engineer. So with those facts or those considerations, we are asking for the variance to allow us to use the above-ground pond. I think your regulations state that we can use above-ground pond, but it needs to be located at the rear of the property. Well, as I previously stated, in this case, it's not possible because of the natural lay of the land, sloping from the rear to the front.
What about the fence that would have to be required to surround the pond?
Yes, we would be willing to install the fence as required.
Would that be visible from the street?
Well, the landscaping would be on the external side of the fence, so we would use evergreen-type plantings at such a density that it would be barely visible. Of course, our aim would be to make it not visible, but with the seasons, you know, at times it may be more visible. Honestly, it may be more visible at some times than others. But our intent would be to use a colored, a fence that agrees with the regulations, number one, and number two, try to shield it with as much planting as practical.
Mr. Hall, do you have any information on what our current codes are in regards to underground detention and the requirements?
Water detention facilities. Developments, but may be fenced, open ponds in residential developments.
Okay.
But in commercial and industrial developments, it says underground.
Okay.
Tim, did you have a question?
No, Mr. Hall just answered. The only thing I may add to that is our last few commercial developments, we have stuck with that regulation.
As far as my regulations, I believe so, yes, sir.
The one I could recall is granting a variance to Walmart, which theirs was located in the rear, and they were also making use of an existing pond that was on the site, that they were improving the size of that. But I know O'Reilly's and AutoZone, since that rule was in place, they had stuck to the underground detention.
Previously, your plan has been approved by the Board of Commissioners, and now you're making a variance to it. I just have a question. What is the savings that you would get from doing this versus the underground, dollar-wise?
Well, as our engineer has calculated that under this scheme, we are using approximately 200 linear feet of pipe underground in order to do this. If we were to use, comply with the regs, that would increase to 500 linear feet at approximately a cost of $100,000 per linear, $100 per linear feet, which would add approximately $30,000 to the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I've got a problem, even though you're gonna build a, like I say, 7 foot, you're on the low end of the road. So everybody going east is gonna see the pond. There's no way to hide the pond from, you're making it sound like it's aesthetically gonna blend in and you're not gonna see it, but you will see the pond.
Well, putting the fence around it will also block the visibility.
Right,
So
right.
that would actually raise the edge of the pond.
Right.
So that would, and then in time, the trees would grow to be taller than that.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and, yes, Will?
Madam Chairman, if I would, a couple things to consider. One, as I indicated in the engineering report, from a technical functionality standpoint, both the underground and the above ground would result in very similar discharge results. So from a technical standpoint, there isn't a significant difference between the two. So I want you to understand that. As Mr. Hall read, your requirement is for commercial and industrial sites to have underground detention. As I'm reading the plans, the top of the berm of the pond is at approximately elevation 853 and a half. The adjacent roadside elevation is at 850, according to the plans that were submitted by the applicant. So I'm under the impression that the top of the berm would actually be approximately 3.5, maybe 4 feet above the adjacent road grade. And, which has already been discussed, the longitudinal grade going uphill obviously would be even greater than that 850 to the adjacent side. The other item that I would ask that you consider too, with the pond being so close to the entrance drive and the adjacent right-of-way, I would suggest to you that any approvals, if you so desired, for fencing and or landscaping in that area, that we strongly consider potential site objections and sight lines for people coming in and out of those driveways in that area. I'm not saying that they would obstruct it. I'm just saying that that could be a consideration that you take into account and maybe require that be looked at further by the applicant to make sure that the plantings that they propose in that area and or the type of fence that's installed, if you require that, would not hinder sight lines for drivers in that area.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? No.
Nay.
Motion's denied. Number 2, item on the agenda is discuss or take action on the McRedmond Family Partnership rezoning application for the property on Highway 96. I need a motion.
So moved.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, well, first of all, to explain, the Plan Commission got this back from the Board of Commissioners to look at it, to get some more information, and then respond back to the Board of Commissioners. I visited the property myself and took some pictures. And as you can see here, this is a plat of that area. Now, the largest in the center there is the 25 acres that they're talking about rezoning to commercial. 96 is up at the top. You'll see most of the what?
The pointer,
Oh, okay.
top button.
Could you go back to the, Nick, go back to the other one? There. So then the property owners around it, for the most part, in the depth of the lot, is residential. It's 1 acre, 5 acre parcels. So there's a very narrow, how do you work this?
Top button, there you go. There you go.
Right here is the access to the property in here. Okay, so this, it looks like most of this is all the commercial here. But all of this around it is residential or estate lots or 5 acre parcels, 2 acre parcels. So when I went and took the pictures, I came to a conclusion, or just for a fact is what I'm stating is that to make the whole parcel commercial at this juncture, there's no buffer between the single-family homes or residential area. So, Nick, if you could let it run through, I'll show these pictures. There's Stark Road. I'll just let it run through. They run about 3.5 seconds apiece, just to get a feel for what that property is. I guess you have to manually do it. Again. And that's the road going back to Mr. Stark's property in the back. On the left of that road there, you'll see some commercial. You can see that it's more residential feel back in that area. There's a house, and then there's another house beyond that. And this is going back out towards 96. You'll start to see the commercial on the left. I believe that's the Fairfield Inn or whatever. There's the commercial, the contractor. And then you'll start to see on the left the road going back to the property in question. And there's residential where that sign is. It was pretty muddy there the day I went, so I didn't go all the way back into the property, but you can get a feel for what that property is. Now, the fact that I found is that maybe this property should be multi-zoning, where you'd have a buffer to protect the single family, to blend in with the commercial. So these are facts that I'm just presenting that I obtained on a trip out there. So I just wanted that to enter into the record.
Mr. Hall, do you have, I know with our commercial guidelines, there is protected buffers whenever there's a change from commercial to residential.
but there is a good-sized buffer that's supposed to be protecting commercial from residential. And while I've got the mic, I would like for y'all to recognize that Mrs. Beata is here
Yes, if,
representing the McRedmond
Ms.
family.
Beata, are you representing? Okay, could you come forward, please?
But regarding the buffers, I mean, that's always been one of my key things that I like around to separate commercial from residential, but also if the park has been protected in that same way. Sure. As with the Publix development as well as the Walmart property. So, you know, it's got to have a good buffer as far as when I sit on the board to vote on it. Thank you.
Also, I know from last meeting, Mr. Stark had brought up potential for junkyard or scrap metal. Is that allowed right now in our codes for this?
No, sir, it's not allowed, and neither is the adult businesses. They're not allowed either. They're zoned for some other area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have a request. I mean, before you vote,
Okay.
just
Can I
to,
say
or look,
What that map doesn't show is I-40 is right there. You know, it's less than a quarter mile away. And that property on the other side that you showed with your slides has a small house there. That's already zoned commercial as well. The entrance to that is all commercial. And there is an existing home on this small space. There's no home on this property, and it's mostly all trees already. Most of that property is all open land and not many homes at all. And like I said, that map does not show the proximity of I-40, which is right there. So, what I understand that the overlay for the future is commercial in that area, so.
I just wanted to make another fact that's, there's no plan at all for this property right now, correct? There's no plan.
Like,
Right. How to
they're
develop
just
it.
trying to sell it,
Right.
and the proper way to sell it is to get the proper zoning. We just discussed that on the Economic Development Board last night, or Monday night here. And so that's what I was trying to do, is get it zoned properly to get a nice business in here.
But is it being rezoned to increase the value of the property?
No, I mean, it's been on the market for about 3 years, and there's been no look for it for a farm at all. So the family would like to sell it and disperse the funds. It was bought by their father, and you know, it's left to them, and they'd like to put it to rest, so.
Will? The entrance to that property, that road is pretty narrow. Is that wide enough for a commercial entrance to something back there?
I don't,
It's 50 feet.
I don't know the exact dimensions. If indeed it is 50 feet, then that would be sufficient, yes.
Okay.
And you're saying 50 feet wide,
Yes, 50 feet wide.
just to clarify?
Most all of your city streets have a 50-foot wide right-of-way width, so that would certainly be sufficient to construct an entrance into a potential commercial business in that location.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just have a request that the chair poll the commission for their feelings.
Okay. So should we do that by letting each one? Okay. Mr. Mangrum?
I personally don't have a problem with this. It fits in with our urban growth boundary plan. It's very convenient to I-40, and this property, it touches commercial already, so I don't have any issue with it.
Mr. Butler?
I also feel likewise. I think, as we mentioned in the last meeting, it fits our future growth plan, urban growth boundary plan for commercial as well, so.
I'd first like to mention Kathy is the Realtor. She's also my mother, so there's a relationship there. She doesn't own the property, but that being said, I'd like to still vote on it. I know, you know, as far as membership, we're tight right now, but personally, I've been involved in real estate for a while. My family's been involved in real estate for a long time. Every time up here, or if I'm purchasing property, you know, I look at it, try to think what is the best proposed use of that property. This being Highway 96 access and quarter mile from I-40, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer that it's commercial, and it fits into our, again, it's our zoning map for commercial, so.
Mr. Rowe?
I think putting into perspective the information and the facts that we've gotten tonight fulfills the request from the Board of Commissioners, so.
I have the same feeling that I have no objections for, I mean, like I say, it's a quarter mile from I-40. It is in our urban growth map. I have no problem with it.
I would just like to say I appreciate Mr. Rowe putting together his PowerPoint so that we can get a better understanding and feeling for the area. With that said, any other discussion?
No.
Will?
One thing I do want to, I guess, add to the discussion as far as buffers go, just for clarity. Anytime a commercial site abuts or adjoins a residentially used site, at the time that a site plan comes in for that commercial site, the staff and then also obviously the planning commission at the time they review that site plan would certainly have the responsibility and authority to make sure that those buffers that are proposed, assuming they are proposed by the applicant, if they're not, then we would obviously state that on our staff reports to you guys that they are required and they're not shown, and that is a discrepancy. So all that to say, in a situation such as this, the planning commission still would have some leverage or authority when a site plan for a property such as this does come back for approval, that you would have at that time have some input and say into the buffer that is proposed to help shield those adjacent residential uses.
Thank you for that information. I have to ask, is there something we need to vote on as far as there's no motion I
You just
see?
need to have a motion for a recommendation, whether to recommend approval or disapproval, or to follow your previous recommendation, which was, I think, for approval.
Yes.
And you can do that, and say upon rehearing and additional information, the board still feels like it should be approved, or feels like it should not be approved. That's your call.
Okay. After the discussion that we've had and the recommendation. Yes, Mr. Stark?
Can I say a few things?
Approach, please.
This property, years ago was owned by Roxy Sullivan, and it included that portion right in the front that is now commercial. This property had gone before Planning Commission before, and they broke off only the front to be commercial. The rest retained to be residential. And that's why I'd like to see it continue. You made a remark about here, about some of the things, junkyard, it can't go in there, I've found out since. But there are some other types of commercial uses there. that would not be very attractive to be by your home. One of the things, if you look on the beginning of the zoning ordinance, the purposes of it, in one section of it, I think it's 1-104 on M, and as a, I can hardly see it here with the light, to conserve the taxable value of land and buildings throughout the city. Well, using that idea, going commercial there is not going to do the value of the adjoining homes at all. In all probability, it will take it down. There's one other thing you mentioned here that I know this is at the interstate, and when I came here, I had the idea of building a campground, and that's what I bought the land for. That never materialized, but when I came here, some of that land right out in front, there had signs on it, commercial, for sale. They're still for sale. That was back in 1973. So it's been 40 years that you've had land up there that's had commercial sign on it for sale, and it has never sold. So putting commercial on this here to make it sell better, I have my doubts if that's going to be a plus for the property. I was out there the other day, they were doing some work up there, opening up so you could get a four-wheeler through there so you can take people around there so you can see it. And I heard them and I walked over to see what they're doing. And up in that area, that's beautiful property. It would make a beautiful spot for some homes, not a commercial unit. If you're going to take a walk back in there, it's really very, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Being a realtor, I have tried to advertise and submit it to, a lot of different real estate companies, et cetera. And in order, I am stopped right now. I can't submit it to certain entities like TVA unless it is zoned commercial and other things like that to try to sell it. I have to have it zoned in order to, for me to get it out there to TVA and other sources that would be able to bring a reasonable buyer to Fairview to try to, make the highest and best use of the land. So that's all I wanted to say.
Anyone else? After the discussion and consensus of the board, I make the motion that the prior motion for approval stand. All those in favor?
Second.
Okay.
I so move on the motion.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion stands. Approved. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? Or adjourned.